Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal, the show where I, your host Jeremy, as always, try to make this world seem a little more normal. Does it ever happen? No, not usually. And it's definitely not going to happen tonight. And you want to know why it's not going to happen tonight? Oh, I decided to bring some weirdos in the show tonight. And, that never makes things go normal. So let me introduce them. Lynn and AJ from the Weirdos in the Wild podcast. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great, Jeremy. How are you?
Can't
Good,
complain.
Jeremy.
I haven't done a paranormal. I haven't done an interview on this show in a while, so glad to be back at it finally. Had a couple cancellations last week, so I actually had a week off. It was pretty freaking cool. So let me start this off by asking you guys the same question I ask everybody on this show. What got you into the paranormal? And I'll let you decide who goes first because I don't know your dynamic like that.
Go ahead, AJ. You start with A. You can go first.
Well, I had a paranormal experience when I was young, when I was a child, and I know now what I saw was a residual haunting, and I would see a ghost in my grandparents' house in one particular bedroom, and I saw it multiple times. And as I got older, I found out that my family is somehow has a paranormal connection through my great grandmother, and that's how I got into it. I had questions. I wanted to learn. As I found out more things that had happened to different people in my family, it just intrigued me, and I'm here where I am today.
No, gotta love a family history in the paranormal. That's always something to me that I'm always jealous of that because my family has nothing to do with the paranormal at all. I am like the first person I know in my family to have any interest in it. So it's just, or any experience with it, even as far as I know. So it's just, to me, that's just something I'm always like, oh, come on, why did that happen to me? But Lynn,
Yeah,
how about you?
when I kind of
How,
figured out what was going on, there was a direct line from my great grandmother on my mom's side. So it would have been I guess she would be what we would call today a gypsy. So
was she like a psychic medium or clairvoyant or something along those lines?
she was more like of a gypsy that would do spells, is what we would call it today. Um,
Oh, okay. So more like a more like a witch, kind of.
kind
I
of,
mean,
yes,
like a
yes,
good a light witch. I'm not saying she's a dark witch, but a light witch.
no, but I think that's what you would call, yes.
Oh, oh, that's like I said, that's amazing. I wish my family was more into that. I do. But Lynn, how about you? How'd you get into the paranormal?
Well, as far as back as I can remember, I've seen ghosts. I've seen things in mirrors behind me and all that stuff. But when I was about 12, I have a little background on me. I have a rare heart condition called Brugada syndrome. And basically, what that does is it's a sudden arrhythmic death syndrome. So it kills you in your sleep. So when I was about 12, I passed away in my sleep and actually left my body and floated above myself and looked at myself and kind of floated up through the ceiling and up over the roof. And I could tell you everything on the roof and all this stuff. And I said, I remember looking down at myself saying, I am not done with her. She's got to get married. She's got to have kids. She's got to go to prom, just all these experiences that I was supposed to have with her. It was like her. I was looking down at me. And I went whoosh, right back into my body. And that feeling where your foot falls asleep and it's tingly? That's how I felt from head to toe. But it seemed like from that point on, things got a lot stronger and a lot more involved for me on the things that I was seeing and being able to, in some aspects, a little later in life, communicate with the things that I was seeing. And then to actually start getting into that world and getting some of that validated, it just kind of got me hooked. So from that point on, I've been very interested in the paranormal and getting into putting myself into all the situations where I can experience things.
So an NDE actually got you.
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, I've heard before that's a great way to kind of like start the connection with the paranormal is because it kind
Yeah.
of forces you into the realm a little bit. But
Big
wow,
jump
well,
start.
yeah, I'm gonna say sorry. I feel bad that happened to you at such a young age too. But then again, I mean, it must have been fate in a way though, because I mean, obviously it's what got you into what you're doing now. So it was supposed to
Yeah.
happen. It just kind of always sucks when fate makes us do things like that instead of just being like, okay, you can talk to spirits. You don't need anything to happen to you. You just talk spirits. You're good. Like it's just
Well, I
no,
think.
we're gonna make.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
I,
you gonna say something,
I, was
AJ?
I was just going to say that I think it. Well, now I've kind of forgot what I was going to say, but just that I think I had. Oh, now I remember. I think I had a reason to stay, and I'm still trying to figure out that reason. But I think I'm getting there now at this stage in my life. But so I think that happened to me as something that I had to go through to get to where I am now. So
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and then also at the same time, it's just one of those things like, why does it have to make sense this way? But
right.
yeah, I mean, we don't pick the cards we're dealt. We just kind of run with them. But and so I guess the next question would be kind of like the conclusion of that story. How did you two meet and start Weirdos in the Wild?
Well, AJ and I actually worked together a few years ago at a company, and just through some conversation, we kind of found out we were both interested in the paranormal and started sharing our stories. And then I'll let AJ take it from there because it was kind of his idea.
Well, we were actually on a ghost hunt. It was how this came about. We are part of a group that's called Beyond This Life. Lynn's brother, who unfortunately has passed away now, began this group, and he took us, well, three of us in at the same time as newbies, and we were on a ghost hunt heading to Tennessee, and we were in the back seat of John's truck, and we were talking about all things that were weird and strange, and I looked at Lynn and said, you know what? We need to start a podcast, and we need to talk about all this crazy stuff that we think is cool and that we're into. And you know, she looked at me and she's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it just from there, it just went, and we really felt like that it was something that we wanted to do. After Lynn's brother unfortunately passed, we felt like it was something that we needed to keep going because of John, and it's just made a life of its own, um, and it's just been a lot of fun. We talk about a whole lot of different subjects, and that's what we want to do. I like to say that we're ghost hunters by our day jobs, but we like to talk about all the weird stuff at night. So
Nice. Which I actually have another podcast, Global Strangers, that we do every Sunday night, and it's more of a discussion podcast on paranormal topics. So I got to ask this because I know we have ours. One, who's the skeptic? Who's the believer? Because there's always one of each in every podcast.
I don't think either one of us are really skeptic.
I think I've got past that because I learned, Jeremy, I learned a long time ago that, I sit there and I tell people like, hey, I chase ghosts and I've seen this and I've seen that. And I'm sure people look at me and go, well, yeah, you're crazy. So I'm not skeptical about what other people tell me as much anymore. So,
Yeah, I think.
and also I've had things happen to me that I was a skeptic of, and it happened to me. And I was like, ugh, just slapped me in the face going, you didn't believe this, but guess what? It just happened to you.
Oh,
Yeah, I
there you
think
go.
sometimes we go into things with a dose of skepticism, though, and because there's a lot that we haven't experienced. But
Well, I mean, you have to have a healthy dose of skepticism. Otherwise, you don't want to be the people. You don't want to be the Zach Baggins of the paranormal world that run into a house and think there's something in every house.
right.
No, we have a expert debunker in our group. So
there's the skeptic. There's always one.
Yeah, she's a skepticist. So, anytime we have something we can't explain, we shoot it over to her, and sometimes she says, hey, this is what this is, or it's probably that, and then sometimes she's like, I don't know, I can't explain it. So it's nice to have her on board.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the second follow-up to that kind of is, so is one of you more into a certain topic on the show than the other? Like, I know that I am the king of cryptids on my podcast. Like, I am always the one who wants to do cryptid topics, and everybody else picks like more spiritual, supernatural topics, and I do. But like, is one of you like usually tend to go one way or the other?
Yeah, we're pretty different as far as some of the things we're really interested in. I'm more into the ghosts and the spiritual side, and AJ is most definitely the cryptid guy.
My man.
Ghost number 1, Bigfoot number 2. So
see, for me, it goes the other way around. But yeah, what can I say? Cryptids what got me into the paranormal and what keeps me in the paranormal. Ghosts, I think it's because I have no doubt that ghosts exist. I have basically proof of it, so I have no doubt they exist. I have proof of it in my freaking house, so I have no doubt. I don't have a Bigfoot chilling in my backyard, and that's why I love it, because I want to know more about that and see one of them. I want to see one of those. That's my goal in life. But I do live near them somewhat, but it's not as high as it would be if I lived in other parts of the country. I'd like to go visit for that reason. But so, how many episodes you guys done at this point, roughly? You don't need to have an exact number, but
we're in the 20s that's being released, and we're more all the time. So we're still fairly young, but we're getting going, and we've got a great following, and
that's what's up.
To get to that point. I mean, even to get past 10 is a feat, I think.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, a lot of podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes or even 20, 30, 40. I mean, trust me, until I got to 100 episodes, I did not feel like I was actually on this show alone. Until I got to 100 episodes, I didn't even feel like I was really like an official podcaster. But once I hit that benchmark, it's just like, okay, I'm in this for a long haul now. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. The time is worth it. Let's do it. And I mean, now, God, I mean, you guys could easily actually be episode 200. I really don't know off the top of my head anymore. I lost count a long time ago. Too many episodes in the backlog waiting to be edited. But so, Lynn, you wrote a book, I believe, right? Based on your experience?
I am writing a book based on my experience right now, along with some other things. I write paranormal psychological crime thrillers for fun. But I am in the process of writing a book on my experiences too. I've got one more book to get out first that I have people fussing at me for, so I got to do it first, but it's in the works. So I can't wait to share it soon.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you've written other books previously, though, right? Because I believe one of them is up for a movie, if I read things right.
My first book, Afterthoughts, is there is an actual 8-minute film that was filmed in Hollywood. It stars Sierra Payton and Matt Yang King. Kind of a sizzle reel to try to get the rest of the funding to make the feature film. But there's also talk of it possibly being a television show as well. So we're not exactly sure which direction it's going to go, but the short film is out there at afterthoughtsfilm.com, and it's pretty phenomenal for a little 8-minute short. It's made it through a lot of film festivals, and we've won some awards with it. So pretty excited about it.
That sounds amazing. I mean, that's the dream right there. That's the dream. That's what in this field. That's one of many dreams, but that's the dream. I mean, and I definitely am looking forward to the day when it comes out on a streaming platform somewhere. But
yeah, me too.
Which actually, I mean, we could talk after about this. But if you guys, I don't know if you guys have a network for your podcast or not, but we could talk. Might have a place that would definitely welcome you out. We can talk about it after. But
okay.
So let me ask you this, because this is why I love to ask people who are investigators. This you can both answer this question, obviously, but what was the most horrifying experience you had, and what was the most moving experience you had emotionally? And yes, these are hard ones to pick, I know, but
Yeah,
that's why I love it.
yeah.
I know that Lynn and I think will probably tell you the experience we had that was most moving to us. We had together, and it was on
Yeah.
an investigation together. You want to tell them, Lynn?
It was actually our first investigation, the one that I think caught us, unless AJ's thinking about a different one, but
Nope. At
we
the theater.
investigated Ross Opera House in Cynthiana, Kentucky. And pretty much the moment we walked through the door, because I'm one of the people that I'm like, let's go, got to go investigate right away. And we
It's
weren't
definitely
even
her. As
like,
soon as we get in the door, she runs and just
yeah,
starts investigating.
yeah. So I get a little excited. But my brother had told me that behind the movie screen, because they show movies there now, that was a hot spot on the stage behind the movie screen. So I grab AJ and my daughter Becca, who's the physicist in the group, and I said, let's go. So we went down and got behind the screen, and AJ says, I see something. And I'm like, where? And he points out, right along the screen, there's something moving. And we could see something black moving. And the three of us are standing there watching it. And it stepped out in front of all three of us and stared us down for, a good 30 seconds or so. And finally went back on its way. And I remember the entire time, all I could think in my head was, this is real. This is really real. I've not been imagining these shadow people my entire life. I'm staring at one right now with two other people. It's really real. But then we had another experience. I'll let AJ tell you a little bit later with the shadow person at Ross Opera House as well.
Yeah, and it was we were the rest of our group had gone behind the screen, and they were trying to communicate with the entity that was back there. And they did communicate with it, and they actually got something to materialize there as well, which was really cool. And we caught that on camera. But Lynn and I were sitting in the seats in the theater, and we were, I don't know, 3 or 4 rows back, and we were sitting a couple seats apart from each other. And I was kind of watching one side of the stage. I saw some movement over there, and I kind of got tunnel vision just watching that over there. And I turn back around and I look at Lynn, and there is a black figure that is leaned over her shoulder, just like back here over her shoulder, looking right over her shoulder as if it was just looking at whatever she was doing. And I jumped, I yelled shit. I mean, it scared me to death. And I go, oh my God, it was right there. And she goes, I know it was, I could see it over my shoulder the entire time. So that night was just what set us off. It put us on the path. And I mean, we went to John and said, we want in, will you take us in the group? And we've never looked back since.
I think the most terrifying though was this last investigation that we did, and we haven't even talked about on our podcast yet, but so you're getting an exclusive here. We went to Randolph County Asylum in Winchester, Indiana, and we were all in a room. Missy, one of our members of the group, got sick and had to leave the room. And there was 5 of us. We were investigating with Oldham County Paranormal Research too. And we were watching down the hall and watching a shadow kind of peek out at us. We had a laser grid going. And as we're talking, something came up and shoved me in the chest and knocked me back. And I said, something shoved me. And it wasn't within maybe 2 minutes. I grabbed all my stuff and I went back to the front room where we had all of our equipment. I'm like, I'm done. And that moment almost made me give up ghost hunting for a few minutes. And then I'm like, no, I'm not. This is what I want to do. This is what I love doing. And I got right back out there with them and finished the investigation. But it scared me for a little bit, I will say.
As well it should. I mean, shadow people I've heard mixed reviews from people who investigate, but most of them say that shadow people like to mess with humans or try to scare them, and physical contact is a big way of them doing that. And yeah, I can't say I would act any different. I'd be like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy running on air, getting out of that house as fast as possible. But all right. I'll tell you the one experience I've had in my house that can kind of match those. And I've said it on this show before, but it's been a while. So for any new listeners, you're in for a treat. So when I first moved into this house, I bought it back in 22. When I first moved into it, I had paranormal investigators come in because other people were seeing things. I didn't see anything because I can't see. I can feel, apparently. I found that out later, but I can't see. So we're in one of the bedrooms, and I mean, they were both investigators, and the lights are off, of course. They got all their equipment running, and they're all of a sudden, like, I start to get really cold feelings down my back, my spine. And I'm like, do you guys suddenly feel cold? And they're like, no. And like, so one of them just grabs the camera, starts taking pictures of me real fast. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, we'll see if anything comes up in the pictures because you might have something near you right now. And then, because I was talking to them about everything I fixed up in the house when I first bought it, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, I just hear like the lowest voice in my right ear, and it says, "Thank you." And I was just
Hmm.
like I almost Scooby Dooed it out of that room. If there wasn't two other people in there with me, I would have. But I felt safe because there's investigators in the room with me. But I just wanted to run out of that room as fast as possible because it was just the creepiest thing that ever happened to me to hear a disembodied voice in my ear, and no one could tell me I didn't hear it because no one could tell me I could still remember to this day hearing it. And funny enough, I get an email from them a couple weeks later. The pictures came out, and I'm standing like this, like I was standing like this, my arms kind of hanging, and underneath my arm, in my armpit area, you could kind of see what looked like a face in the top of top half of a person, like sticking out underneath my arm.
Oh, wow.
And, and I mean, some people can see it, some people can't when they look at the picture, but I noticed it right away after staring at the picture for like 5 minutes. I was like, whoa. I'm like, that's creepy as hell. And it looks purplish because they had a purple strobe light going in the room for picture reasons, I guess. I don't really know why. But I mean, it looks purplish, but it kind of looks like an outline of a person, and it kind of freaks me out because there was nobody else in the room at that point. My kids weren't in the room at that point. They were nowhere near us, so it was just, yeah. To this day, I still walk around this house every day, just like, are they behind me right now? Are they in front of me right now? Where are they at this moment? Because I know they're here, but and it's weird because I usually podcast in my garage during the warmer months, and I've had mediums on the podcast tell me like there are just spirits all around you right now walking around. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I mean, we saved the house one time, and I mentioned that, and they're like, well, she's like, that explains it. I'm like, explains what? I'm like, she's like, they're all walking around like they're like zombies, like they're just stoned. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, well, we did just save the house. She's like, that makes sense. Okay, okay. But so I mean, yeah, that's the terrifying experience that happened to me. Probably the only one that I know of. Who knows what they do when I'm sleeping? I don't want to know. But let me ask you this now, since you're our paranormal investigators, have you ever done any UFO investigating or alien investigating?
I haven't. Have you, AJ?
No, we haven't.
It doesn't mean I don't believe, because that's
Well,
something that I really want to do.
Well,
But
we
course,
may
I
have
mean,
we may have an opportunity
yeah,
to do
ooh,
that.
and I am a big, huge fan of the Skinwalker Ranch where they're doing all the UFO research. So
yeah.
I definitely have a huge interest there. Um, and like I said, I've not experienced anything, but I don't discount much of anything anymore. So, um, you
Oh,
know,
oh, I've
see,
seen UFOs plenty of
oh,
times. I mean, where I live, the county I live in. It's kind of a common thing to see UFOs at night if you look in the sky. I mean, it's just you see things that look like stars, but they're moving and they're not airplanes because you'll see an airplane go by the same time and they don't look the same. So it's just, yeah, I mean, they definitely are out there. I mean, well, the government admits it now, so they have to be out there. But I don't know. I believe in them way before that anyway. But I don't know. What do you think about aliens, AJ?
Oh, I definitely believe that there's more than just us in the universe. I think that's, if we think it's just us, that's kind of a crazy thought to my mind. If the universe is as large as everybody believes it is, then why would we be the only ones here? Um, That's kind of my thinking. I've never seen anything that I think was a UFO, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe in it. I mean, I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I believe in those too. So,
Which I mean, and actually, a
um,
lot of people believe a lot of people believe they're
I
related.
think that you're right. I think that the government knows who they are and what they do. And it's funny. I was just listening to a
Oh,
podcast about that today, and it was, and they was speaking about some of the Native American beliefs in that,
hmm
and it was very interesting.
yeah. I mean, the government definitely knows a lot more than they're letting on. They have had contact. I have not one doubt in my mind, and they've communicated with them. There's been so many supposed experiences that we know about that the government had, but I'm sure there's a lot more that were behind dark closed doors in dark rooms that we have no idea ever happened. I mean, I've heard of the Valiant Thor incident with Eisenhower, which
Hmm.
that one right there pretty much proves to me that it happened
We
because there are
we
pictures.
talked
There are
about that on
pictures.
our podcast.
Oh,
We we
nice.
we,
See,
we did a podcast and we were talking UFOs, and we talked about that and how some of the other presidents have seen what they believe were UFOs. Reagan, Carter,
mhm.
Eisenhower. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and plus there was supposedly a conference in Europe after World War II that was attended by extraterrestrials and humans that only the highest government officials knew about it, though. So in each country. So I don't know. I forget exactly what it's called, but I've heard from what I heard, it was a interesting place to be if you were one of the military guards there that day, because there was only a few select guards for each leader. So I actually had a guest, and her father was in the military, and a lot of the stuff she knew was from him. And let me just say this, because I don't like to give too much away about that episode, because that's a fun episode to listen to. But Velociraptors in World War II. That's all I'm saying.
Hmm.
Velociraptor extraterrestrials, but in World War II, fighting on both sides. And I'll leave it at that. You can go listen to the full story if you want, but it was literally the one moment in podcasting where I was sitting there with my mouth open, not able to say a word, just like I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be hearing this right now. I really am, because I actually believe it. I actually can believe it. I really can. I've heard stories of extraterrestrials looking like dinosaurs before. So why wouldn't they be involved in a war where nuclear devices are starting to prevail? Why wouldn't they be involved? It just kind of made sense to me. And I mean, I just can't imagine seeing a Velociraptor extraterrestrial not losing my shit. But that's me personally. My son would probably be in heaven. He loves dinosaurs, but I would be like, they're not friendly. Let's go. but as I kind of mentioned a few minutes ago, though, a lot of people say that Bigfoot and extraterrestrials are related. I am kind of in the middle ground on this. I don't know which way to go with it because of my Bigfoot beliefs. I don't know which way to go with this. So I kind of like to ask anybody else in the paranormal field like what their opinion is on that.
So you're saying you between the
I'm, I'm,
the Bigfoot being a natural creature versus the woo, I guess as they call it.
I what was that? What was that term? I don't think I've heard that term.
Woo, which
We
would be
were,
like Bigfoots can travel between dimensions and go
Oh,
through portals and
yeah. Okay. So yes, I am kind of in between them being a natural skin and bone creature or being extraterrestrial slash ultra terrestrial. Ultra terrestrial is a term I know for that. So when you said woo, I was like, what?
I've heard it called woo. So
I could believe it, but that's not one thing that's come across my desk yet. So I like that. I like that though. I will be using that in the future. I'm just saying. But yeah, that's what I meant. I'm kind of in between the whole Bigfoot has been Earth since the beginning of time thing, and the Bigfoot is a extraterrestrial slash ultra terrestrial dimension traveler. So
so
I
what
don't
what
know.
part of the country are you in, Jeremy?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. 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 You said it earlier, and I was trying to decide. You were talking about being in an area of the country where there are or more Bigfoots. So
there are Bigfoot sightings in this part of the country. Decently heavy because we have forests. We have a lot of, especially near me, Leominster State Forest is a hot spot for seeing them. Supposedly, I've been there a few times and haven't seen anything, but that doesn't mean that they're not there. I've seen actually, I got a picture once of what kind of looked like a footprint to me, but it was covered. It was like it just rained a couple days ago, so it was like covered in mud, and I didn't. I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, I'm not showing this to anybody because there's going to be like, what are you doing? That's not a clear shot of anything. You can't tell. So I kind of just left it unspoken at the moment. But I don't know. So yeah, like around me there are some, not as many as on the West Coast. God no. But still, there's some. I'd love to see one. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there honestly was one living in the woods in my backyard. It's very possible. It's deep woods, so it's possible. But what do you
Yeah.
think about that, though? Like, do you think Bigfoots are related to extraterrestrials, or do you think they're their own creature, basically?
I think they're their own creature. That's just my opinion. And of course, nobody knows what the right or wrong answer is. But I think my opinion is it's a creature that's flesh and bones. I've never seen one. I've been in places. We're in Kentucky, and I'm a kid that was growing up in the woods and fishing and hunting and spent plenty of time in the woods and so did Lynn. I mean, she grew up in the country too, and she has seen some things that are not supposed to be in Kentucky either, that she's told me about. Um, I'll let you tell that story, um,
I'm curious. I'm curious.
okay, tell them what you saw, Lynn. It's not supposed to be in here.
I was chased around a pond by a panther, a black panther. My whole family
Ooh,
was, and we wanted to dive in. Of course, that's not necessarily paranormal, but it was something that they swore was not in the state of Kentucky. And then,
actually, it is technically paranormal, I will say, because it is. They are in my cryptids bracket. I do because they're called alien big cats or ABCs, as coined by Derek Hayes, the Monsters Among Us podcast. So
hmm, wow. So look at that. I got another one. But yeah, it was pretty terrifying. I was ready to jump in the pond or do whatever it took, but all it did was go around the pond and around us, and then it went away. So it didn't try to do anything, but it sure gave us a good stare down. It made us pretty nervous, but it was a beautiful cat. It was absolutely huge.
yeah, and I mean, alien big cats were a thing where in the last well, I mean, in the last 5, 10 years, the government finally started announcing they were releasing mountain lions and panthers into certain parts of the United States to try to get the population to start again. And they've been successful actually in a lot of areas. But I know where I grew up in New York, my dad and I were driving back from his scuba diving shop. Where he was learning to scuba dive, and we saw what we thought was a mountain lion tail going into the brush in front of us in the road. And my dad was convinced it was a mountain lion. Nobody believed him. But he actually called the environmental people in New York, and they were like, yeah, we're not supposed to say anything about this, but we have been letting mountain lions back into the mountains of New York to get them to repopulate. So
Hmm.
we kind of got told that in the 90s. So how long they've been doing this, who knows? I mean,
Well,
it
this
makes
was in
sense
the
though.
80s, so that was a while ago.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay, makes sense. I mean, the government's probably been trying to repopulate all these creatures for 100 years, probably, because it's deer, it's population control for deer and other small mammals that they don't want getting out of hand. So it makes sense, and there's not gonna tell people, let their dogs and cats get eaten by wild animals and not tell them that they're out there. Why not? That sounds like something the government would do. But
Well, we're not supposed to have them in Kentucky either. And what was it, a month ago you saw one on your farm, Lynn?
Yeah, I saw a cougar running alongside our field where I have goats. But the strange thing about the cougar is that it was solid white. And I was looking up that I'm like, what is that? And I looked it up, and they used to be. I mean, that it is a thing. That's I guess like it's not albinism for them. It's something else, but it's similar to that. But they can be white. So not only did I see one period that wasn't supposed to be here, I saw one that was white that wasn't supposed to be here too. So
I mean, it makes sense though, because I mean, I know the big cats. I've heard stories of people seeing melanistic ones, like ones that are not supposed to be all black but are. So it makes sense. It's just I don't know. I guess it's how they're mating and how the genes are passed down, or something along those lines, or if the government experimented on them. Who knows? But see, when you said you saw something in Kentucky that wasn't supposed to be there, I was
mhm.
like, tell me she has a Dogman story. Please tell me she has a Dogman
I
story.
wish.
No,
That's another one AJ's interested in too.
no. Well, there's plenty of Bigfoot stories in Kentucky. Um, there are Dogman stories in Kentucky though, and um, I'm sure you've heard of the Land Between the Lakes stories, Jeremy, in Kentucky.
I actually have had D.A. Roberts of the NADP, North American Dogman Patrol, on my podcast, God, a year and a half ago now, and he actually was telling about when he went to Land Between the Lakes and did investigation there, and some of what he tells is pretty fascinating. Once again, I won't give away an episode. I'll let people listen to it, but it was a really good episode. I think it's still my top 10 episodes by listens because he is so good at he knows so much about dogmen. It's just ridiculous. I've been trying to get other people from that society on, but a lot of the other ones are hard to get on. So working on it, working on it. It's always good content.
Yeah,
I
that was
mean,
our most
I
popular.
had a
Was our most popular episode.
yeah.
So.
I had an
dogmen
experience
are.
where I walked into, like, with Bigfoot kind of experience. There's a property I hunt on occasion, and it's had some of the telltale signs, the tree breaks,
Mhm.
the giant trees that are thrown over the pathways, and I walked into the smell while I was walking out of the woods one time. I didn't see anything. I was with a teenager, and I was more um, the first thing in my head as I thought of was Bigfoot. You know, that's me. And I was more concerned with that teenager getting them out safely. And I was about 100 yards, and I could see my truck. So I was like, "Let's go!" But um, I think that there's because I've had some other things on that property. Just when you're being in a a 200-acre woods where you're in there by yourself, and all once everything goes dead silent, it's things are
Yeah,
strange. So
those are the moments in those are the moments in movies where you yell at the screen, "Run, you idiots, run!" like, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, and that was the eerie thing about the Land Between the Lakes that DA said as well is once you get to the second half of that island, that's exactly what it's like in the second half of the island. It's dead silent. There's no birds chirping. There's no roadkill on the side of the road. There's nothing. It's just creepy silence, and every once in a while you may hear a twig break or something like that, but it's just mostly creepiness. So yeah, not exactly a place I want to be at nighttime. I've heard stories about people being up there at nighttime, and usually
I
doesn't
mean,
end exactly well.
I've heard those stories too. No, not me. No way.
I mean, and also, of course, can't forget the Beast of Bray Road, which is in Wisconsin, which is kind of by you guys in Kentucky. And I mean, I've heard, I've heard Linda Godfrey talk about all the time she was up there investigating that, and she has some close encounters with that creature. So that's, dogmen are becoming the new Bigfoot, and that's why I love is that they're finally getting the recognition they deserve. Because I first heard about them on Monsters Among Us podcast about God, probably back in 2016, 17, and even then they were like unheard of. And even when I started this podcast, like I started talking to people about them, and they're just like, "What?" They're like, "You mean werewolves?" I'm like, "No, I don't mean werewolves. I don't like the freaking term werewolves. They're not werewolves. They don't change the full moon. They're the way they are permanently. They ain't changing back and forth." But I don't know. It's just we've done a couple episodes of them on my other show too, and it's always my choice. But I mean, because they're one of the most they're my favorite cryptid by far. I just find them so fascinating that they've been around for so long, and yet you never heard about them like you did Bigfoot. So I
They're
don't know.
Lynn's. That's Lynn's. That's Lynn's cryptid.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you own a farm with goats, so yeah, I'd be looking at Dogman too, because
I'm
everybody
in the
knows
middle of a
Dogmen.
forest, so yeah.
Everybody knows Dogmen love farms. So for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, that's my wife's dream, knowing a farm of goats, and I'm just like, no, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good.
I know where you can get some.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure. All right. Well, just to bring it back more to your guys' realm, I guess. What do you think shadow people are, since you've actually seen them? What do you think they are?
That's a good question. Because I'm like on a permanent quest to find that out now. But the one that we stared at for um, the 30 seconds, it, I mean, I got a good clear view of it because it was backlit because we hadn't gone lights out yet. And it had like all around its outside, it had what looked like hairs, but it wasn't hairs. It was like sucking in energy. Like, I almost feel like it's like a mini black hole. It was sucking in blackness to make it look more black. But the hairs weren't like way out waving in the breeze. They were really close to the darkness of the shadow person. So that's what I saw. And I know I've seen other shadow people that didn't look like that. So I think there's different kinds. And I don't know if they're all like different breeds of the same type thing or they're all different things. But I feel like a lot of them do have negative, dark energy to them. And I think they feed off of that, just from the feelings I get when I've been around them. I don't know. AJ, you experienced it too. Do you have any takeaways on that?
Sometimes I feel like what it is they are intelligent because
Mm-hmm.
we've been in places where it seems like that at Ross Theater, where it seemed like it was curious about us, and we've had those um, experiences in other places. Um, we were at
Post Town.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, Post Town, and they kind of like to watch us there a lot. And it seems like they just kind of poke their head out and they look and they um, want to see what we're doing just as much as we want to see what they're doing. But we've also been places where I believe that they're just almost like a residual haunt, that they're just going through the motions. They're doing something over and over and over again. And Lynn and I have seen that too, where it's like they're just doing the same motion
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, and in that broken record kind of
Yeah, like the residual hauntings on Supernatural, basically.
uh-huh.
So I mean, yeah. Sorry to bring pop culture in, but I have to.
And
It's
I
enough.
do. I think that they're kind of both. Lynn's right though. We've come across what we've never been harmed by them, but what we've been told are the bad ones as well. When we were at the last location there, the asylum, we came across something there that was um, a dark type of figure,
Mm-hmm.
shadow figure, and it did not feel like we were welcome at that point where we were.
Yeah.
Uh,
But even then, it just watched us and then backed away. But we've seen things, at Waverly Hills, they talk about the creeper. We've had 8 of us sitting there pretty much telling it jokes. I know that sounds silly, but it creeped along the walls to us, but it never came, it didn't bother us or anything. So we just sat there with it and it was just, you could tell it was kind of a negative feeling, but I didn't feel like it would hurt us. I don't know how to explain
Yeah.
that. It was just,
Well, I mean, see, that's one of the things I never hear the same answer on, because I've had people tell me that shadow. I had an investigator tell me that he worked with a family for years to try to get rid of the shadow people in their house, and the shadow people in that house were just basically turning the house completely negative. The family was constantly fighting. The parents were about to get divorced. The children were misbehaving. Like, it was basically ruining that household. And he
I
believes
have
that
heard that too. Hmm.
his belief was that they feed on negative energy, and that's what sustains them, basically. So they kind of create it at the same time as they're taking it in to try to, because they have to create it, otherwise they're not going to have enough of it. Kind of like a energy vampire in a way. But
Mhm.
I've also heard the theory that they're just, like you said, residual hauntings that are left there, just someone that did the same thing so often in their house or their hotel that they just, left a mark when they died, regardless, because they're meant to stay there. And then the third thing I've heard is that well, kind of my theory on them too, is that they're part of the evolution of ghost. Because I think ghosts evolve.
Mhm.
I mean, I think they start off as the wispy fog that has no shape at all. And I think they evolve into shadow people eventually once they learn how to harness what they can do. And I think the final evolution of them is kind of the full body apparition, like Ghostbuster style, that investigators rarely actually see, at least from what I've been told. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it doesn't happen often. I have seen a full body apparition.
But it's not common though, right? It's not
No,
really a
it's
common
not
thing.
all. Shadow
Yeah.
people do seem to be the most common. And
Which would
then
be which would sorry, go ahead.
as I say, and we've seen the mists and partial apparitions and stuff, but yeah, I mean, pretty much everywhere we go, we find shadow people. So.
Which would make sense with my theory because that would be the middle evolution, and that would make sense with them poking their head out just to kind of like and being curious to what you're doing because they know what they are at that point and they're just kind of hanging out, seeing what's going on around them. So I don't know. It's a mystery. I don't know if we'll ever actually have an answer to, but it'd be nice if we did. But you'd have to communicate with one to do that, and I don't know how that's possible, really.
Mhm.
I mean, I never heard of a medium being able to talk to a shadow person. I never have heard of that, and I have spoken with a lot of mediums in my time, and not one of them has said, "Oh yeah, I spoke to a shadow person." Like, I probably would fall off my seat if they did say it, but Velociraptors in World War II did that already, so let's try not to have that happen anytime soon. But, well, what are some topics for your show that you guys want to cover that you haven't covered yet? I always like to hear what people say to that question.
Oh, we have a list.
We do have a
Oh.
list.
I'm trying to
Here,
think of
I
what
keep it right close by, Jeremy. Part of it.
I was gonna say that's a list. That's a pretty tiny list.
Well, we keep it. It's our list goes back and forth. But I sit here at my desk and when something comes up, I just jot something down real quick. One of them is Land Between the Legs. It's on here. We haven't done an episode on that. Mirrors. Mirrors is going to be soon.
What was that? You broke up when you said that last one.
Mirrors.
like using mirrors as portals.
Oh,
yeah.
Mirrors being portals. Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, what are mirrors? Is that some new cryptid I haven't heard of yet? But yeah, actually, I have a guest that. Ooh, you reminded me. I have one of my first guests actually has to come back on at some point and tell his mirror stories. I keep forgetting to reach out to him. To-do list. But well, let me ask this: have you done one yet on living dinosaurs?
No.
No, we have not. We've done giants. We've done little people.
We've done
fairies, but we've not done dinosaurs.
Ooh.
That's a rabbit hole AJ will be going through tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I'm down that rabbit hole tonight.
Oh, well, there's a reason Mokalium Bembe is in my top 5 cryptids of all time, but yeah. Once you get into living dinosaurs, it's a rabbit hole and a half. I literally made our one podcast episode about them go like 2.5 hours because I just kept bringing up more and more cases of different creatures that have been seen around the world. So it's a fun topic. You'll have fun with that one, I guarantee it. And there's a lot of non-believers in that. There's a lot of non-believers on that topic, and it drives me nuts because I'm like, you really think something couldn't survive that long? I mean, look at alligators. Look at all these turtles, all these creatures that have survived for thousands of years since the time of dinosaurs without being interrupted. So why couldn't they exist?
They're finding them in the ocean, so why not?
Yeah. See, I don't even like to put sea monsters into that category because then it just gets too big and it's just going to be a 6-hour-long conversation, but sea monsters are their own damn topic. And yeah, and we've done those too. I mean, I love that's part of living dinosaurs. It is, but I love sea monsters as well, especially the idea of mermaids, which have been making a boost lately in paranormal news, which I can't explain. I,
Hmm.
I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think mermaids could actually exist?
I am at the point in my life where I think just about anything is possible. Because I've
Yeah,
been through some stuff where I didn't believe it before, and then now that I've experienced it, I'm like, oh crap, now I got to believe in that too. You know, so I don't discount much of anything if somebody's experienced it. You know.
yeah. I mean, it has to be something that's been experienced very often, and it has to be something that I don't know. I mentioned it before in the show, but Monsters Among Us podcast by Derek Hayes. It's all people that call in their own experiences with their own voices most of the time, and some of the people I hear the stories, I'm just like, I don't believe the way you're telling this story it happened. I don't believe your voice. I just don't believe your voice. I mean, that's a minority of the time, though. Most of the time in that show, I 100% believe the person. I mean, there was literally a guy on there named Mac that got breastfed by a Bigfoot when he broke his back falling out of a tree blind. And I've heard his story probably 7, 8 times now because Derek likes to replay it all the time because it's like one of the most amazing stories ever. And I think Mac's telling the truth because I think he's just a poor innocent Southern boy. I don't think he's lying. I think he's just telling the truth. I don't think he would have a reason to lie about it. Like nobody knows who he is. It's just his name is Mac. Like that could be anybody down south for God's sake. So it's not like he did it for fame. It's just I feel like he's telling the truth, and it would make if that's true, it means Sasquatch milk has healing properties, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. And that's partially why I think the government knows about Sasquatch and doesn't want people to know about it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I
I think
mean,
I've heard that story too.
what was that then?
What
I,
about what
I
other ones are we gonna do? What other topics we got coming up, Lynn? I was trying to think.
Oh gosh, I need to pull up my spreadsheet because we have a whole spreadsheet of it too. But
Dreams. We have a dreams one coming up.
Ooh,
We're gonna do
right,
dreams.
we just did one of those like a couple months ago. Yeah, that's a fun episode always.
yeah, and a mediumship one, and I'd like to dig more into the Estes method. We've been doing that for a while, and maybe do a show on that specifically because I'm sure we could dig up enough stuff for that. But I finally did that. I was the person that went under for the first time this last week, and I'm ready to do it again. That was a pretty amazing experience. So that's another topic
Huh.
I'd like to hit. I don't know what else we got, AJ. We had all kinds of
Well,
stuff.
we always like to do episodes on the investigations we've done.
Mhm.
Of course, yeah.
So we always go back to ghost hunting. We get good listenership on our ghost hunting ones. They seem to the audience really seems to enjoy listening to what we find and how those go. So those are always good ones for us. So we've got.
Yeah, paranormal
Go ahead.
investigators are definitely there's a couple paranormal investigator episodes in my top 10 episodes at least. So they are very people like to hear it's like it's basically like hearing real life Ghostbusters in a way. So
Mhm.
people like it. I mean, it's something that I mean, going on investigate paranormal investigations has become like a touristy thing almost at this point in some places because it's just like I know at the what's that damn ship the what's that ship what's that military ship in New Jersey they let everybody go investigating on all the
Queen
time.
Mary?
Queen Mary, yes, thank you. I could not think of it for anything. Queen Mary, yes. Like I know that's almost become like a tourist attraction in New Jersey now, where people can go on investigate that ship and like go look for ghosts on it. I see it advertised on Facebook all the time. It's just, I mean, I see nothing wrong with that really. I mean, as long as people are not being allowed to disrespect the history and disrespect
Mhm.
the spirits that are there while they're there. I mean, then I see nothing wrong with it. It's a good way for people to open up their world to the paranormal, and I'm completely down with that.
Right. That's one of the main things I like about going on paranormal investigation is the history and getting to get in and see these old buildings and learn about the things that happen there. I think I get more out of that sometimes than I do the actual experiences.
Yeah,
And we
I
are a
mean,
group that and we're a group that believes in being very respectful
Yeah.
of
of course.
of the
Yeah,
of the place and of those people that are still there. It actually pisses me off when you see these people on television that go in and try to provoke, and I think it's very disrespectful. If you believe that there are ghosts there and you believe that they live there, then you need to treat them with respect because you're in their house. That's the
I,
way
I,
we
I,
look at it.
I agree 100%. I refuse to watch pretty much any investigative show, any ghost investigator show, because it's just, I can't stand them. I don't need to see you running into the house like, oh, come face me, ghost, come face me. Like, who do you
Yeah.
think you are, one? And two, no ghost is going to respond to that. They're going to pretty much laugh at you and ghost and just float the other way because it's like, why? They're not going to answer that. It's just like, that's disrespectful. And then all of a sudden you make up that they're touching you and you run out of the house. Like I can't stand those shows. I really just can't stand those shows one damn bit. I never could. I never could watch them. And everybody always thought like, oh, Jeremy be into that. I'd be like, no, no. I will gladly watch Monsters and Mysteries in America, Monster Quest, all those types of shows because they actually come at it with a scientific approach and respect it. Well,
Yeah.
maybe
That's
poke
why I
fun.
like
Maybe
the Skinwalker
Maybe
Ranch.
poke fun. Maybe yeah. I mean, well, who doesn't like Dragon? Come on now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm behind on Skinwalker Ranch, but I do love it. It's a really informative show, and some of the shots they're getting on UFO that they're showing on international TV at this point is just like, wow, that's groundbreaking. Like you never saw that type of footage before on TV. So,
Right.
and I don't think they're faking any of that. Really, I can't. I tried looking to see if I could like tell if they're faking anything, and I just don't think they are. Like it just seems
No.
like they're out there to really prove things. That's what they're actually doing. They're not just trying to make good TV.
Right. The quality of the people that they have on the show, I can't imagine that they would want to ruin their reputation by trying to fake something. You know,
I mean,
the top NASA scientists, they're not gonna
no, they're not going to
fake.
ruin their reputations by being assholes. And I mean, it's funny because when I first started watching the show, I almost thought it was fake because of Dragon. Like just his personality made me think the whole show was fake.
Yeah, he's a character.
I like literally when a person starts a show by saying, "Everybody calls me Dragon," I'm like, no, they don't. No, they don't. Unless you demand people call you that, nobody's calling you that. So I mean, it's just the first season. It kind of turned me off with him a lot, but then as they were getting through the first season, things started happening, and they started having experiences. I was like, okay, now you got my attention. I could deal with Dragon if I can see all this. I could deal with Dragon.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It just drove me up a wall. But well, I want to thank you guys for coming on because it's been a fun show, and if you ever do guest, I would love to come on your show and talk
Yeah,
about whatever topic you're talking about that week.
we'd
But
love to have you.
where can people find you? Where can they find your show? Where can they find your investigative group? Promote
We
yourself to
are
the fullest.
Weirdos in the Wild podcast. We're pretty much everywhere on social media. We distribute through Podbean, so you can find us on Podbean as well as anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. Our investigative group is called Beyond This Life Paranormal. You can find us mostly on Facebook and TikTok, and then btlpara.com is our website. There's just 5 of us in the group, and we usually travel light, but we get a lot of good experiences that way. So leave
We have
anything out.
some amazing things that we've caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind that demon in AJ's basement that he caught. But oh, actually, we didn't even touch on those subjects, but that'll be another time.
Right.
Well,
We've
well,
done demons
I want
before too. So.
want to thank you guys for coming on. It sounds like my dogs are breaking the basement down. But it has been a pleasure having you. And for all my listeners and watchers, you know where you can find me. If you don't by this point, just shame. Shame. But check the outro. You'll hear it all there again. I ain't saying it again. I get sick of it. But I will be back Wednesday, I believe. I have another podcast taking on the Cryptids bracket, a 2-on-1. And then Thursday, I have another interview for you guys. So it's a busy week. And yes, I did just win Parapost Network Podcast of the Week for the 4th time. Thank you all for listening and watching. You helped that happen. So keep it up. If I can win about 20 times, I'll be good. I'll be good. Then I can retire in my mountain of gold. I'm kidding. I wish. But I will see you all on Wednesday. Thank you again, Lynn and Nature, for coming on, and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Jeremy.